Bonjour. Mishko Pagnan Quena Dishnakas Mangdodem. Hi everybody. Sandy Boucher here. I'm Red Thunderbolt Woman of the Loon Clan and a proud member of Seine River First Nation in Northern Ontario. And I'm here with you today for yet another episode of Surviving Isolation. This episode is being recorded on July 10th and it's episode 17. And like I say, absolutely every episode, who thought it? Who thought we would still be social distancing, self-isolating, quarantining, all of these words that are now common? Who thought we would still be doing this on July 10th? So this episode is called Holding Space, and I'm going to explain that to you in a moment. But first, we have to do our statistics as always. So once again, it was March 11th when the World Health Organization officially declared the pandemic and lives changed. That was 121 days ago. Now for me, I had been on the road. March is an incredibly busy month for me. I had done 4 events in 1 week, had seen a lot of people. So for the safety of my loved ones and for me, I went into self-isolation on March 14th, which is 118 days ago. And it was that self-isolation that actually led to the creation of first the podcast, then these videos, and then the TV show. And it was March 17th when Ontario officially declared the pandemic, and that was 115 days ago. Every time I see the numbers, I just can't believe it. I do want to take a second to welcome all my listeners and viewers. If you're listening to this on Sandy Boucher, the podcast, welcome to yet another episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for coming out. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're one of my viewers on Shaw's Spotlight, welcome. I'm thrilled to be back in your home. Before we jump into the content of this week's episode, I do want to do our standard mental health check-in. How are you doing? Mental health is seriously being challenged during this time. We have so many people that are struggling. I know I have members of my family that are having trouble coping during this time. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? And even if you don't tell me the answer, ask yourself that question. I suggest on a regular basis, try to stay on top of your mental health. I personally find it a little bit easier now that the weather is so beautiful. At least we can get outside and get on the lake or get into the bush and just de-stress. But there's a whole bunch of people out there that are home with young kids or home with school-age children or just home for the first time. They're normally at work. There's couples spending way more time together than they normally do. And there's people completely and totally alone, and every single one of those episodes or those situations comes with challenges. And that's why I ask and do the mental health check-in each week, because it's not an easy time, and it's okay to acknowledge that. Please, if you need to reach out, please do that. You do not need to do this alone, and in fact, you shouldn't. Now, that brings me into this week's topic. Normally, every episode of Surviving Isolation has been all about helping you to survive isolation. We've talked about games. We've talked about things we can do to help the hours pass, whether it's a Netflix marathon, whether it's catching up on books. We've talked about health and fitness and what we can do, even though the gyms are now closed. We've talked about setting goals or not setting goals, letting some goals go. They're just not possible to achieve right now. And setting some that are achievable. Or maybe just giving yourself a break. We've covered a lot of things on this show to help you deal and help you survive isolation. But today, I want to change it up a bit. Today, I want to talk about what you can do, or at least one thing you can do to help other people survive isolation. And I'm calling that holding space. Now, what do I mean by that? Holding space, in my definition, is making it possible for someone else to not only have their own opinion, but to be able to express it. When we jump down someone's throat as soon as they say something, that's not holding space. And what is really, really important to remember when it comes to holding space is it doesn't have to be factually accurate. What it often is an accurate portrayal of how that person is feeling. If they feel like it's never going to get better, well, that you could debate that that's not accurate, factually. That's not going to help because emotionally that's how they're feeling. Now, I'm not talking about people spouting out racist or offensive things. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about when people are trying to express how they feel, emotionally how they feel, not about some topic, but how they feel, and we need to hold space for that. Now, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, a lot of people are incredibly stressed right now. They're feeling incredibly sensitive. Some people were used to being part of a group. They went to work. They were a member of the staff, and they're feeling isolated now. They feel like no one sees them. They're invisible, that they don't have a voice. And then we have other people who feel like they've never had a voice and no one ever listens to them. And this is why holding space is so important. First off, I highly, highly, highly suggest, highly recommend that before you personally jump on social media, that you do a mental health check-in. You touch base and where am I? Am I able to hear other people? If you're incredibly sensitive today, that's okay. Own that. But it's probably not a good time to go scrolling through Facebook and reading everyone else's comments. What you can do, especially if you're alone and you're feeling frustrated and you need to express that, I fully endorse jumping on Facebook and going to your page, not the general news feed, but your profile, and sharing how you feel. Now, keep in mind, I don't know what your social circle is like. If you have friends that empathize with you, sympathize with you, understand what you're going through, people that will hold space for you, then they're going to read your frustration. They're going to offer you a hug. They're going to say things like, if there's anything I can do, but they're not going to tell you you're wrong. And that's where holding space is so important. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing a lot of people do is they're not doing that. They're not going to their own wall, and instead they're taking all that frustration and they're commenting in other threads, and they're commenting on other people's stories and situations, and they're invading other people's space with their frustration. They need to get that frustration out. I totally understand that. But there's a place and a time to do that. And taking over someone else's space isn't the way. Now, why did this come up? Well, for one, as I said, I have family members that for a variety of reasons are struggling. I'm not going to identify them. That's not my journey. That's not my story to tell. But I have had to learn over the years the value of just listening. It wasn't about debating the facts. It was just giving them the space, holding space for them, giving them the time, the space in our day to be able to share how they were feeling. And often just by doing that, we can help them feel so much better. But on top of that, something happened last week that really got me thinking on this topic. And here's what happened. As you know, if you watched past episodes, I created this show, Surviving Isolation, because the pandemic hit. I'm a motivational speaker who used to make her entire income on public events that suddenly were not allowed. I watched my revenue completely dry up, and I was freaking, to say the least. I was used to being in a room of 20, 30, 40, 100, 200 people, and suddenly I was alone and had no idea what the future held. So if you're in my business and you're used to doing public speaking, you shoot a video or you create a blog or you do both. And I created the podcast first and then started shooting videos. I needed to reach out to people. Now, in those first episodes, I talked a lot about my fear of losing my business and the potential for losing my condo, which is where I'm sitting right now. I love my condo. I have loved living here for the last 4 years, and it was really debatable whether I'd be able to stay because, as you can well imagine, it's not the most inexpensive place to live. Well, this past week, now things are leveling out. Revenue has resumed. I'm not doing public events, obviously, but I'm doing online options, and things are, I can breathe again. I can sigh. I'm going to survive this. But like so many other people, this time really forced me to look at what was in my life, what was important, what I wanted to keep, and what just didn't fit in this new puzzle that is the world and my world. I came to the decision that the condo no longer fit. COVID scared the daylights out of me. Gonna admit it. That pandemic and watching all the revenue dry up scared the daylights out of me. So I decided to look for another place to live that was way more affordable, which meant way less stress. And that's why I was doing it. And I found a place. Not only did I find a great place in an entirely new part of the city, I'm not leaving the city, don't panic, but it's totally an area of the city I haven't lived in before, so that's going to be absolutely exciting. And it offers a backyard and a deck, and my grandchildren are 5 and 7 now, so I'm totally looking forward to being able to enjoy that space with them. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. And if you follow my career at all, you know that I do a morning blog post and I tell people how things are going in my life. And a couple of days ago, I shared how I now have to pack, which I don't know about you, that is not my favorite thing to do. Boxes, and it breaks my nails. I digress. I shared in the blog post how I had to move, that I was giving up the condo and moving into this new place, and that I was looking forward to it, that I was looking forward to this new chapter. And that's when it happened. An individual who I don't know, I don't think I've ever seen them post on my blog before, commented, and her comment was that I should have never mentioned that I live in a condo. Her point was that she has struggled. She has worked really hard her life. She has several degrees, and she has never been able to manage to get a condo. And I was making her feel bad by saying that I had one and I shouldn't do that. So there it is. Now, I look at those opportunities as a learning opportunity. And first, I got to be honest. The first thing I did was delete the comment, because anyone who follows me knows I just don't leave that kind of stuff on my page. That's not what my page is all about. I want it to be positive and empowering. Criticism doesn't fit. So it was removed, but that doesn't mean I didn't contemplate it and consider it, because I always do that. So first off, as an Anishinaabe, as a woman from a First Nation community, belongs to a First Nation community, well aware of the challenges that Indigenous people face, lateral violence is a reality. And that is what happens when a member of a group tries to advance and all the other members pull them down, whether it's criticizing them or discouraging them or telling them they're not going to be able to do it. I have publicly shared every award I've achieved, every milestone I've achieved in my business and my condo, not to brag about what I've achieved, but to show, especially the youth I work with, that it's possible. I grew up in a house with an outhouse. We didn't have running water. There was no extra dollars. I raised my children in low-rent housing projects, impoverished to the nines. I have sold furniture for food. I share my successes to show that if I can do it, so can you. It takes a plan and determination and one step at the time, and teachers and mentors to help you. So when she made that comment, my first reaction was no. There is no shame in having my condo. I will not hide that fact. And I will continue to talk about my condo and now my new home in the way I always have. But what I realized was, for this woman, she was so frustrated that someone else's success was making her feel worse. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation. I know I have in the past. But what I hope you understand is that when someone triggers you, when something is said or done that triggers you and brings up that negative reaction, a trigger is not a clue to what they should change, what they shouldn't say, or what they shouldn't do. A trigger, I believe, is a huge hint to what you need to work on. What I realized was, if this woman is working that hard and so frustrated that she can't have a condo, and if she really super wants one, it would have made way more sense to reach out to me, send a private email, and ask me how I got it. And I would be happy to share. And if there's someone who has achieved something that you want to achieve, ask them how. Now, granted, they may not want to tell you, then you're asking the wrong person. But I'd be willing to bet whatever you want to achieve, there's a whole bunch of people that have. Ask them how they did it. There's a really good chance they're going to give you a Reader's Digest version that's completely, totally free. You don't need to figure it out on your own. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. But you don't need to attack people that have what you don't have. Now, I know for me, anyone watching these shows, you know I've been struggling with my health and my weight like so many of us, and I've tried 100 different things, and they tend to either not work or work for a while. I have a permanent neck injury that I have to be conscious of, and I now do 10 kilometers a day walking around my condo, listening to my favorite music, and it works for me. I did the update show. If you didn't see it, go back to the Surviving Isolation Facebook page or to my YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube and search Sandy Boucher. All the episodes are there, and you can see the results I've achieved so far. I'm 56 years old. I am very proud of those results. And again, I share them because maybe that's something that would work for you too. I don't know. You know you. I don't know you. You know what challenges you're facing, but maybe, just maybe, it would work. So why am I telling you all this? Well, the next time you jump on social media and someone shares something negative, they're feeling horrible, they're so frustrated with the world, hold space for them and just say, you know what, I hear you. I understand. Don't go on there and say, oh, if you think that's bad, I've done this, this, or that, because it's not about you. hold space for them. Let them get it out so they can get to a better place. And if the other side of that coin, if someone's online and they're sharing some awesome news, enjoy it. Because I don't know about you, but I think this world needs so much more good news right now, especially in the middle of this pandemic. I hope that makes sense to you. I think it makes sense. I know it works in my world, and I try really super hard to hold space. I don't allow people to spin out things on my wall, but I will defend to my dying day their right to put it on their wall. Now keep in mind, if you're going to say something controversial, people have the right to comment back. And, this whole debate about freedom of speech doesn't mean there aren't consequences to what you say. But if you need to share that you're depressed or sad or frustrated or angry, use your wall and do that. Because your real, true, beautiful friends will be there for you, and they would want to hear you're feeling that way. And any single one of you out there who manages to have some good news in the middle of this, please share it. You could tag me if we're Facebook friends, because I know I want to see as much good news as I absolutely can. Until next time, I hope you're surviving isolation, and I hope maybe this week you learned a few techniques on how to help someone else survive isolation. Until next week, please take care of you. Don't forget mental health check-in daily, at least. Stop. Ask yourself how you're doing. You are worth checking in on. Until next week, I love you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.